Now let's change pace and go to Victoria, where Dan Andrews this week decided to renege on his commitment to hold the Commonwealth Games in 2026. Voters have, in the latest Roy Morgan poll, savaged him for the move, with his disapproval rating now exceeding his approval rating for the first time since he was elected. Andrews uses as his justification for dumping the Games the fact that the cost had blown out from $2.6 billion to between $6 and $7 billion. It's an interest in delivering on budget and on time that is a new development for Victorian Labor. I mean, all of their other projects blow out wildly and they don't normally seem to care. Or perhaps they didn't price it properly in the first place. Well, joining me to discuss this move is Sophie Elsworth, media writer for The Australian. Sophie, thank you very much for your time. Does this move do damage to Australia's reputation as a trusted destination for major events because organisers can no longer have confidence that the agreement to host won't just be torn up? Does this damage Victoria's and Australia's ability to attract events that are internationally attractive and important for tourism?
Well, Amanda, great to be here. Look, I definitely don't think it does us any good at all. Melbourne likes to think of itself as the sporting capital of Australia, and we are known for our international events. But some of the behaviour that's gone on down here in Victoria in recent years has been pretty disgraceful. For example, when we kicked out Novak Djokovic over the vaccination saga, we were made an international embarrassment over that. And then the latest fiasco with the cancelling of the Commonwealth Games, which made headlines all around the world, certainly was a bad look. And it doesn't look great if we're trying to entice business to come to Victoria and big sporting events if we're going to pull the pin out at any moment. So I think this was a really bad decision to sign up in the first place. I thought that all along. But to pull the pin a year or so after the announcement and 3 years out from the event is certainly not a good look. And if I was sporting authorities around the world, I'd be thinking very carefully before holding events here in Victoria.
Makes it pretty hard for whoever's got to pick up and run with it. How much will taxpayers be left to pay as the break fee on the contract for the Games?
Well, Amanda, there's a lot of news reports circling, as you would have seen. There's expectations it could be $1 billion to pull out of this, but that is not clear yet as to the cost. But don't be fooled. The media down here move on pretty quickly when there's a crisis with Daniel Andrews. I note on the 6 p.m. news bulletins tonight, the top stories weren't about the Commonwealth Games. They've moved on to Daniel Andrews plugging housing policies, potential rent freezes. So he's very, very clever at moving the story along and shifting it away from what has been a PR disaster in the last week or so. But Amanda, not forgetting, we do have a very weak opposition here. Daniel Andrews has authority, he has conviction, he rules the roost down here, and the Liberal Party cannot land a punch on him.
This move has been unpopular, but we also know that Andrews doesn't make any moves without extensive polling and testing. So given that, should we read his move as a sign that he's preparing to hand over to his successor by clearing the decks of any baggage that successor doesn't want to carry so that the political liability isn't carried by that person? Am I reading too much in here, or is that how we should understand it?
Not at all, Amanda. I think you're dead right. Daniel Andrews would not have made this decision, I believe, without absolutely polling the life out of this to make sure that this is what Victorians wanted. And there has been a lot of Victorians welcoming the decision despite knowing it wasn't a good look for Australia and Victoria. But yes, Jacinta Allen, she was the Commonwealth Games minister. She is, widely expected to take over as Premier. I think that's now in doubt. Her reputation's been severely damaged, and she's been blamed for a lot of the cost blowouts on projects down here. I don't think Daniel Andrews is going anywhere. Why would he when he has a majority down here and no threat at all from the opposition? I don't think he's got any sign of giving up, and I'm not in that camp that think he won't be running at the next election, despite it being 3 years away.
Well, Jacinta Allen, as you say, is Deputy Premier, but she's Minister for the Games and for Transport and Infrastructure, all the areas that have the cost blowouts in the Andrews budget. So she's got a lot to answer for here. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Sophie Elsworth.